You just heard it. Most people never do. Not because it's hidden, because once you hear it, you don't forget it. In July 2010, former NBA star Lorenzen Wright called 911 from a dark field outside Memphis. Wind, movement, heavy breathing. Then gunshots exploded through the phone. The operator started asking questions, but Lorenzen never answered. And somehow, police still didn't find him. Not that night, not the next morning, not for 10 days. By the time his body was discovered in a remote field, investigators realized this wasn't a robbery. It was a setup, and there was money involved, a lot of it. And the people behind it weren't strangers. What nobody was saying out loud yet was this. Lorenzen Wright had been going through a difficult divorce. 6 children, a complicated split from his ex-wife, Shara. In the days before he disappeared, people close to him said he felt something was wrong, uneasy. He couldn't explain it, he just felt it. On the night of July 18th, he left Shara's house, got into his car, and drove toward a remote field on the outskirts of Memphis called Callus Cutoff. The question nobody asked at the time was simple. Why would a man drive alone to a field in the middle of the night, unless he thought he was meeting someone he trusted? 10 days after his mother reported him missing, a man walking his dog found a body in that field. Forensic examination confirmed it was Lorenzen Wright, shot 7 times, lying there since the night he disappeared. And the 911 call, the one where the operator heard the gunshots, had been sitting in a database the entire time. Memphis had been looking for Lorenzen Wright. He was never more than a few miles away. The investigation went quiet almost immediately. No arrests, no suspects named publicly, no explanation for why a 911 call with gunshots was never connected to a missing persons report filed days later. Just silence. Meanwhile, Shara Wright collected on Lorenzen's life insurance policy, $1 million. She moved to California, wrote a Christian self-help book, and gave interviews about loss and faith and moving forward. 7 years passed. 7 years. 6 children grew up without their father. Memphis moved on. The case sat cold in a filing cabinet somewhere. Then, in 2017, something broke open. Investigators linked Shara Wright and her boyfriend Billy Ray Turner to the murder. Shara had arranged it. Turner had pulled the trigger. Lorenzen had been lured to that field believing he was meeting someone he could trust. But the conviction never fully answered what needed answering. Shara Wright didn't act alone. There were phone calls, meetings, and money exchanged. People knew what was going to happen that night in that field, and none of them were ever charged. They got a conviction, but the whole truth? That never came out. And then there's the 911 call, the one that should have saved him. Memphis police maintained for years that the location couldn't be determined, that they had no way of knowing where the call came from. But Lorenzen called from a cell phone in 2010. The technology to narrow that search existed that night, the next morning. All 10 days his family was looking for him. The ball was dropped. By whom and why has never been fully explained. Possibly still alive for part of those 10 days. That possibility haunted people then. It still does. Here is what we don't know. Whether he had any idea what was waiting for him. Whether in those last moments he understood what was happening, or whether it came out of nowhere in the dark from people he thought he knew. And then there's the money. In the weeks before his death, Lorenzen had been approached about a significant sum of cash. Whether that money was the reason he ended up in that field, or whether it was used to pay for what happened there, has never been established. Officially. Then there are the others. Investigators believed more people were involved in the planning, never charged. They sat through the trial, watched Shara Wright get convicted, and walked out of that courthouse free. Lorenzen's mother, Barbara Wright, never stopped pushing for answers. She reported him missing when nobody else would act, and years later was still asking questions the system never bothered to answer. Memphis claimed Lorenzen as one of its own, put his name on things, remembered him the way cities remember athletes, publicly and from a distance. But remembering someone and telling the truth about what happened to them are two very different things. That truth has never been told. Not in full. Not in a way that gives 6 children what they actually deserve. Lorenzen Wright called 911 from a field outside Memphis while he was being shot. The call connected. Someone heard it. And for 10 days his family searched, his city wondered, his children waited. Nobody came. The people who pulled the trigger went to prison. The people who planned it went to prison. But every conversation, every person who knew, didn't. And somewhere in Memphis, 6 children are still waiting for all of it. If you've never heard the name Lorenzen Wright, you have now. Don't forget it. Every sport has an official record: wins, losses, statistics, championships. But there's another record, the one nobody keeps. Missing athletes, unsolved murders, deaths that never added up, stories the sports world moved on from. We don't. If this is the kind of story you came here for, there are more where this came from. Subscribe to Unsolved Sports Edition. We'll be here, digging,